What's up, everybody? I've got Steve, and we're here to continue our Star Wars CCG set overview. We're here with Endor.
Mm.
This set rocks, right? We'll say at the top. This is set 8. I think this might be the peak for me as like a child playing this game. Child being like 13, but I love a lot. So we're gonna go over the good, the bad, the ugly with Endor, but just to put it at the front, there's a lot to like about this.
Yeah, this is a really good set.
So Steve, let's get into kind of the basic, stuff.
So this came out in June of 1999, and I'm going to come back to that date in a little bit because I think it's a really interesting time in CCG history as well as history of this game. But first, it's I think I said in one of the previous videos I thought that Special Edition was the last 9-card booster pack, but this is actually the last 9-card booster pack. So sold for 9-card booster packs, $250 a pack. And it's interesting because it's the only regular set that had foils in it, randomly inserted into some packs. And we'll also get into that a little bit later, how foils work in this set. But like we've been doing for the last couple of videos, let's talk a little bit of history here. So it's June of 99. Top song in America is Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca. So that's very, very 99, I feel.
Ricky Martin, is he still making music, or I can't remember? These guys just came out of nowhere.
I think he's around still. I don't think he's had any embarrassing scandals that I'm aware of. Anyway, the top movie. Any ideas what the top movie was in June of 99?
99. My mind went to Land Before Time, but that's obviously not it. It's not.
No, I think that's 89, actually.
Okay, it's obviously 99. It's like an ace, like The Mask, maybe.
It's Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Okay, that's the first one, right? Yeah.
That is no, that's the second one. The first one is Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. This is the sequel with anyway. But more importantly than either that is there's obviously a decipher game of that. More importantly, the number 2 movie in June is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which had come out in May of 99. So that leads to where we are in like sort of Star Wars history right now. We're 1 month after Episode 1 came out. And I think we talked last time about how this is sort of feels like the set that you don't see as much of in old collections, right? Like whenever somebody pulls out their old collection and puts it on Facebook or Reddit or whatever, inevitably it's got like a ton of Premiere, Cloud City Special Edition, Jabba's Palace. But then you don't see, only like the really good collections are going to have the Endor and Death Star 2 stuff in it and so on. And I've always wondered why that was. And thinking back to when I was playing these games, I was in middle school, I also didn't buy that much Endor, and I couldn't remember why at first. And then I realized it was because it came out 1 month after Episode 1. And I'm pretty sure I spent all of my paltry allowance and my mom's generosity money on Episode 1 swag, like 1 month before.
I think that's a good point to raise. I also think that 99 had a bunch of stuff released that was starting to take away interest from.
Yeah.
At this point, there's probably 100 CCGs out there.
Yeah, there are.
Buffy, Austin Powers, Star Wars, Star Trek.
Well, I mean, the big elephant in the room is Pokemon, which hit U.S. shores in January of 99.
So I think 6 months in, a lot of people had started to drift, away from Star Wars or Star Trek or Magic, whatever, towards Pokemon, which I remember that happening. I remember I had a group of kids that we would play Star Wars together, and then Pokemon came out, and suddenly I went on a binder of Pokemon, and I was like, "Oh, should I binder
absolutely."
Of Pokemon? And also, I remember WWE Raw took some of the money that came out.
Right.
That was like a whole wrestling.
Yeah, Pokemon came out in January. In June, same month as Endor, Pokemon Jungle, the second set comes out. It was also huge, and I think it was also even more widely available than Pokemon base set. And so, I'd never watched the anime or anything, but even I'm sort of I think I got a Pokemon starter deck around this time, and I was playing a little bit. So it definitely took away market share from like the casual player. Like I don't think Pokemon is taking away any of the hardcore players who are going to like DecipherCon or whatever, or Worlds. But I think the casuals who maybe barely knew how to play this game, Pokemon was eating into that market share. And Decipher also kind of cannibalized it by releasing Young Jedi in May. So I think we sort of forget about how big Young Jedi was, at least for a few months, because like I was sitting in line waiting to see episode 1, and I already bought Young Jedi. And I had started acting a few boosters. My friends and I were playing it in line to see this movie we had not even seen yet. And as I recall from reading Scry magazine at that time, like that year around that time, it was Pokemon in #1, I think Magic in #2, and briefly Young Jedi eclipsed Star Wars CCG in popularity as #3.
What a mistake that was. But I mean, I also think it's interesting to think about like the product release cycles. So there is no world in the modern like age where you'd have the card game or the toy with a new movie released a year after the movie, right?
Right.
Because if you think about when the episode 1 sets came out, they came out in 2000, right? Like
I think it was 2001, actually. I think it was the beginning of 2001. We'll get to that in a couple of videos, but yeah, I think.
But like at that point, like you're so far behind. Like the ideal time to drop episode 1 sets would be like instead of Endor, you're doing Tatooine, whatever, or whatever.
Exactly. Right.
Because like you're then getting out a product that's like a year old. And I know design cycles don't like work like that, but that's what they did with the Lord of the Rings games, right?
Lord of the Rings games came out the same month as the films,
and then you can have little promos in the theater. They had little giveaway cards. So it's like it was just not synced up enough. It was like
absolutely
9 months unsynced, right? Where better, then maybe you would have gotten a little bit more squeeze out of episode 1.
I think we will talk about this more when we get to the Tatooine set. I think Decipher did not want episode 1 in Star Wars CCG. So they made a new game. And eventually Lucasfilm was like, you got to put this stuff in the original game. And that's where those other sets came from, the later ones. But yeah, so I'm playing Young Jedi. I think a lot of other people were as well. Another thing I think hurt the set from a sales perspective is that Special Edition came out in November of 98. Endor comes out in June 99. That's December, January, February, March, April, May, June. That's 7 months between releases. Like I know in 2025 we're promoting the Magic release schedule of like 7 sets a year or whatever. But that's too many. But they could also have too few, I think. A 7-month gap with nothing but there were no releases, not even in an enhanced anything between those.
Yeah, I think the sweet spot is 3/4 sets or 3 with a fun little product. Totally. I think 7 is too many, 6 is too many. 5 is knocking on way too many. 4 is like okay.
Yeah, but probably switching to a different video, but like when Magic used to do a 3-set block and then in a core set or some kind of other like sort of random thing, that was perfect, I thought. But yeah,
it also made the years feel like it's like 1999 or whatever. Like that was the year of Urza's saga, whatever it was.
Right. Yep. So all that's from like sort of the market perspective and so forth. But let's talk about the foil situation for a little bit. So they're 9-card packs. The foil replaces the rare, right? And the distribution's a little wonky on this. I know that the rare foils are really rare. It's like 1 in every 3 boxes. I think the commons and uncommons you get somewhere like between like 3 and 5 in a box. Is that right? You've opened more of this than I have.
I think the biggest complaint I had about Endor is I believe the foil took the rare spot.
It does, yeah.
So that might be previewing the ugly. That's probably the ugly for me.
Yeah, so you might get like an Elite Squadron Stormtrooper as your foil,
right?
As opposed to a real actual rare.
Yeah, and I think so. This is the first set that did foils.
That's right.
Foil patterns are kind of weird as well.
They're really weird.
I actually like them more, but if you don't store them properly, they will be the worst Pringle of all time because they really warp.
I think there's more foil or something. So yeah, let's talk about just really quickly. I got a couple of them that are interesting. The light side ones, they foil like everything. So they're like kind of blindingly bright. There's a Ewok village, right? And you said, like, the quality control is a little weird on these. There's a lot of them that have like splits. So I don't know if this has come from the video. But there's a split right about there where it seems like there's like a vertical line running across it. You see that on a lot of these foils.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the list of them is a little interesting. The 4 rare foils, which are really hard to get, are Tempest 1, Tempest Scout 4, 3PO, and General Solo. Those are worth a little bit today, I think.
Yeah, I think the full set goes for like $200 to $250 kind of deal, and most like General Solo and 3PO. Right. I think that
the Daughter of Skywalker and Chewbacca are like the uncommon level foils. I mean, they're still more rare than a rare, but they're like not the rarest ones, even though those are better cards than some of the. Anyway, so I don't know. Would you like the foils in the set? What's your take on them?
I like the foils. I think also if it hadn't taken the rare slot, I think I'd like them more. I think as a kid, it was like mind blowing because there's very little innovation that happens in the CCG space, right? It's like, oh my God, borderless. Yeah. Or it's like, at the end of the day, you have a little card that's what, 3x4 or whatever. Yeah. It's like you don't actually have like innovation in the technology. And foils felt like mind blowing at the time. Where I'm like, wow, it's shiny now. Like this is so much cooler than the unshiny version. I read a Daughter of Skywalker that was like the big pull of my collection.
Nice.
So I like them. I have a complete set. I think it's cool. I have a few random ones. Actually, I do use a lot of the commons and uncommons ones. Like, for example, like the landing platform. I use that a lot in decks.
Oh yeah, landing platforms in all my dark side decks. Just because why not?
Like a very common site to run. I have like 3 or 4 of these just around, and it's fun to have them in decks.
Yep.
A lot are worthless chaff though.
Yeah. It's interesting that they're like a buck or so. They're basically worthless, even though they are the equivalent of like an ultra rare, basically.
Yeah.
Just kind of weird.
I think they're once again, this is the first set they did this or figuring out how to do it. I don't think they would do this again. I mean, it's obviously 26 years later, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, they didn't do it again, so you didn't get any more rare foils in Star Wars CCG like regular set booster packs. Obviously, they had the reflection sets come out after this, and that's what they focused their foiling on. But kind of interesting. Let's move into the cards themselves. A lot of good in this set, I think. I started off with just the mains. Got a bunch of mains in here, reflecting like evolutions of the characters. So you've got Daughter of Skywalker, General Solo. These are really cool cards. I think all the mains are pretty good. I don't know about 3PO exactly, but they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see like the characters grow in the story. And that was like one thing that made this game feel special to me, where it's like, he's a captain. No, he's a general.
Yeah.
He's a scoundrel, right? But like seeing Han, evolve, and same thing with Leia. This is for training to be a Jedi, getting more AT-ATs, ATSTs.
Right.
Like this is, I mean, Darkseid didn't really have any big characters. They had some like random kind of like
Igar, yeah.
5 seconds in the bunker that got like tossed over a ledge.
Right.
I think maybe if we would redo this list, the ugly might be the Ewoks.
I thought about that, but I think the Ewoks they're fine. You can make a solid B tier deck with them, right?
Yeah, I've definitely played with the Ewoks, and like the only way you win is like if they don't expect you to be running Ewoks, and Ewok ambush them. Otherwise, it's extremely card intensive strategy.
I guess you can make them a bad or ugly. I thought, I think if the ugliest slot is usually for like things that actually make the game worse. Ewoks I usually just ignore, but
I mean, I guess that's right. Maybe that's the ugliest. Like there is a 30, maybe there's 30 cards in this set for Ewoks.
Right. There are
worthless besides finishing a set, and I think that's always the design, especially as you get later sets and it's more sophisticated design. It's just missed opportunity, right? Like no one's gonna run Ewok Catapult ever, so that card forever just like not good.
Daughter of Skywalker, we'll go back to her for a second. She's cool also because she makes Mind What You've Learned a powerful deck, because up to then, up to special edition, you have to run Luke basically, and then you don't have Luke battling elsewhere, and that really like hampers your ability to control the early to mid game while you're training. But now you can have Leia on Dagobah and have usually Luke with lightsaber running around messing with your opponent while you're training up Daughter, and that's really cool.
Yeah, someone asked me that question, like, why do you train Leia instead of Luke? It's mostly just to have Luke free, because
That's right.
having him stuck on Dagobah is you're losing out on the best personality the light side has.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you can have Leia trapped on Dagobah, and it's like doesn't hurt as much.
Exactly. Corporal Beezer's up there. First of all, shout out to Frodo Light from the Retro League, who has posted about Corporal Beezer more in the last couple of years than anyone else in the history of the game had. His love of Corporal Beezer. But no, it's mostly because of scouts, I think. I love scouts in this game. They're one of the first like viable, I guess, like almost like sub factions or tribes for light side, because dark side has troopers and a few other things with aliens. But like light side scouts, they all sort of synergize and they do some really cool stuff. They have a lot of tricky interrupts they work with, and I like scouts.
Yeah, I think that it's the beginning of an archetype that could have been fleshed out a bit more, and because I think before you had like aliens, like it felt more like generic, right? Where like half the characters are aliens, so it didn't really feel that interesting. But I think it's like a preview of like tribal, like scouts tribal deck, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't work very well, but it's a nice attempt.
There's ways to do it, but it doesn't work well. We'll get to the bad in a second, but they do at least synergize. Sometimes they move for free. They can like block react, so they're tricky. The next couple of cards in there, obviously the walkers are really cool. The ATSTs are cool. It's to show that, like in Special Edition before it, the rare slot in this set is usually pretty good. Most of the cards have a home in some deck, or they're just cool. But most of them have a home in some deck, and like the ATSTs are quite powerful in reality-based operations. For instance, one of the knocks against this set, I don't think people complain as much about this anymore, but they used to, is that like there's a lot of sameness, I guess. Like although ATSTs are kind of similar, I mean they do, when you get down to it, they do a little bit different, but there's like 6 different named ATSTs. There's a little bit of sameness there, but I still think it's cool to open a rare ATST.
Yeah, I agree. Like if I looked at the difference, I remember like I was building something deck that used trample, and I was like, okay, which one of the 6 Tempest scouts? And like these guys are all the same, right? Like I don't know, like a couple of pilots, some of them are good with weapons, but like I do want to hit on some of the effects here. I think some effects are like evergreen cards that still play today, or really shield and battle order, interaction, and their other side counterparts. You could make like a Legion of My Best Troops, which is actually broke a deck, maybe accidentally.
Right.
But there's just like some really solid effects that I think really building what you can do with the mechanics of the game, and I appreciate that.
I put these two up here because these two in particular I almost refer as like rules of the game cards, in that and when you get to shields later on, they become shields, but like almost like probably 3/4 plus decks run battle order, battle plan, or insurrection and imperial rest order. So battle order, battle plan says that you can ensure battle for free, but the part that like most people are focused on is your force strains are going to cost 3 force unless you occupy both a battleground site and a battleground system. And this forces decks to not totally ignore one of the 2 theaters of the game. You're going to have to probably have a little bit of space, or if you're playing a planet deck, or a little bit of something for the ground if you're space focused, or your force strains are going to be really hard to get through. So one could think that it could have been a rule of the game, right? But putting another card, not the worst idea. And so it's like almost like a soft rule of the game. You're going to have to expect to encounter this card. Insurrection does 2 and Imperial Rush does 2 things. It shuts down the Nabram leads, not to totally shut down, but like Nabram leads, which allows an interrupt from Premier, lets you move everybody at one site to another site at any time in the game. Now you can only do it during move phase, so it makes it so that you can't have a surprise Nabram show up and just like destroy you before the battle phase. But the part that most people are thinking about from this card is lets you pull a docking bay from your deck once per turn. Now, we could talk about this. I think I know you have some thoughts on this, Matt, that like it does change the game significantly to focus on docking bays, but it makes it so it's much easier for you to reliably in the early game get one site out per turn. Kind of like in Magic, how you're playing one land per turn. Almost a soft rule of game that like docking bays are going to come out once per turn for the first few turns of the game.
Yeah, I understand that, and I honestly I go back to like what could have fixed this game, and I think just like being able to draw a battleground once per game or twice per game or something could have been a rule that might have fixed everything. But I will just say thematically, it feels lame to have every docking bay out and like the board state be like, all right, each player has 3 of their 1-0 docking bays.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes like for a game that leans so heavy into theming, right? And why is the home one docking bay out? We're not doing anything in space. Oh, it's because it's a 1-0 site. And
whatever. Let's just put all these over here. We're never going to play on them, but they'll generate some force.
And then like I also still don't really know ever how much it's going to cost to move from a docking bay. It's always confusing to read the text. Like
yes.
But I do agree.
You don't want to be a light side player stuck on the dark side Endor docking bay. I can tell you that.
It's like 7 force or something.
Oh, right? It's worse. Yeah, it's your docking bay transit. From here requires 7. To here requires +9.
That's what's confusing. I'm like, do I pay the 2 from here? Like if I was at that, would I pay the from and also the 2? Right. So it's like it's just another rule that like makes things the cognitive load greater. And I'm like, docking bays, I think before this were just kind of like random. They're like another site that existed. They weren't like, all right, you got to make sure you have 6 of all the major docking bays because that's like how the game is played.
And once that becomes the way the game is played, then things like Fallen Portal, which are the light side interrupt that lets you surprise kill some people in a docking bay, becomes a very important card.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I on balance think it's a good, but I can see an argument for it being a bad. But
I have. They made a tournament foil version of this card. I have a couple. It's fun as that.
Forgot that.
The tournament foil. We can do a whole different video on tournament foils. There's like 20, some of them 26. The objectives. You can throw like ominous rumors, like the helpers for the dark side objectives that are actually not helpers or like impediments. Like you will never be able to complete these objectives.
Right.
FX.
These just really hurt because you want these to be good. And I feel like every new player when they come back to the game thinks these are good and runs a deck and gets like smashed in a tournament with them. Just like totally hosed. But I think Rebel Strike Team is a little better than Endor Operations is the foundation for a good deck, but it doesn't like have anything to do with playing on Endor. It's the this thing's operational deck that comes out in the next set. It's the way you build the Death Star 2. But actually, like running Endor Operations with Biker Scouts is never going to be a thing. Rebel Strike Team is like more close to being good, maybe, particularly once this effect comes out in a couple sets that makes it a little bit better. But still, it's like not viable. You just wish these were good objectives.
100%. The amount of times I was like, I want this to work. Especially Rebel Strike Team, I think is like a C tier deck. If you're playing it, like you might get a few lucky hits in there. Especially after the helper comes out in Tatooine. But like, there's just no way of doing Biker Scouts on Endor.
Right. No. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I ran Rebel. I think we both ran Rebel Strike Team at the Worlds 2021 Retro event that we went to in the DC area where I met you. It was like the first time playing after COVID for a long time, and I'm gonna run Rebel Strike Team, and this is a good deck. I'm pretty sure.
That's how we found some common ground of how much we lost with that. Except if like got like lucky, but Anyways, and then the ugly, we could have hit like we don't have anything listed here for the ugly, but I think there's a bunch of stuff. The foils being the rare slots, kind of ugly. Frankly, some of the choices, like Ewoks, could have been, but overall, like I like this set.
There's nothing in this set that actively makes the game worse, which is funny because like
at the end of the
I feel like in all the previous sets there was something that made the game worse, but not this one.
So that's all I've got in Endor. Really fun set, I think. this is part of the golden age of the game where like there's like a year and a half here where they're just like putting out the hits, and this is one of the hits. Death Star 2 is also one of the hits. And then we go into a different period where the hits change.
Different kind of hit. Yeah.
All right, so that's all the time we got for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and love to hear your comments and thoughts on Endor. And any other videos you'd like to see, please put them in the comments, and we'll catch you guys later.